Ridge Racer 64 was developed by Namco and Nintendo Software Technology, and released on the Nintendo 64 in the year 2000. Curiously enough, this one was never released in Japan. Like the games before it, Ridge Racer 64 is an arcade-style racing game, oozing with style and placing an emphasis firmly on drifting. The heart of the game is the Grand Prix mode. This requires you to finish in first place on 3 different tracks to unlock the next batch of races and progress. Per usual, the tracks are a mix of classic Ridge Racer environments with alternate routes, as well as the addition of a new environment. The Ridge Racer stages look familiar to anyone who has played pretty much any Ridge Racer game. The second environment is called Revolution, with tracks from Ridge Racer Revolution. And finally, the third environment is called Renegade, which is the new environment created for Ridge Racer 64. While featuring a limited track count by today's standards, variety is added in the form of alternate routes, differing time of day, and reversed versions of each course. For the most part, the tracks here are brilliant. Good track design is all about flow. They should be challenging, but when you get everything just right, there should be a zen-like aspect to the experience. Ridge Racer has always excelled at this, with the perfect blend of elevation changes, length, and sweeping turns. Being a late Nintendo 64 game, Ridge Racer 64 looks pretty good by N64 standards. The car models are adequate, the textures are well above average, and the track geometry is great. Above all else, the frame rate is a solid 30 frames per second, at all times. Even more impressive are the details. I like how the taillights come on when driving through a tunnel, and also enjoy the light trails when watching replays. Also impressive is how each stage looks dramatically different depending on the time of day. The evening races are particularly striking, where everything is a dull muted gray, but then pops to life when there's an alternate light source. Another thing developers really seemed to excel at towards the end of the Nintendo 64's life was music. Despite being on a cartridge, the music in Ridge Racer 64 is excellent. Per usual, it's a pleasant mix of upbeat dance and techno, doing a great job fitting the ultra-cool style of Ridge Racer. The quality is superb as well, and makes you forget you aren't streaming this off a CD.
Three, 2, 1, go!
For everything Ridge Racer 64 gets right from a technical perspective, there are far too many gameplay flaws, and it prevents me from truly enjoying this installment of the series compared to more modern iterations. I absolutely love Ridge Racer 6 and Ridge Racer on the PSP, with both quickly becoming some of my favorite racing games of all time. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for Ridge Racer 64. The two main issues are the collision detection and the controls. The polygons making up the car and the boundary boxes used for collision detection are just off. At times, you think you're at the edge of the track, racing to the very limit, but instead, you scrub a bunch of speed as your car collides with nothing. Even worse are the collisions with opponents. Generally, nudging them in any way will again scrub a bunch of speed, even if you are on the side of them. Worse yet, the opponents will sometimes glitch across the screen, complicating avoidance. The wonky collision detection with the traffic and the courses really pulls me out of the game, and it loses a sense of immersion because of it. However, my biggest gripe is with the controls. Ridge Racer is all about drifting around turns to maintain speed and momentum. In Ridge Racer 64, it feels inconsistent. Sometimes my drift wouldn't initiate at all, despite performing the same exact maneuver the lap prior. It's also extremely awkward to end a drift. Sometimes you'll drift back and forth unintentionally. Sometimes the drift will end abruptly and slingshot you into a wall. The overall lack of consistency makes it very difficult to go all out in every single turn. Instead, you're always driving a touch conservatively, just in case the game decides to freak out on you. The inconsistencies with the controls and the questionable collision detection really prevent me from enjoying Ridge Racer 64 as much as I want to. Instead of thinking about the next turn or setting up a pass, other things enter my mind when racing. Hesitation sets in when entering a turn at full speed, and the game fails to really immerse you into its world. Over the years, I've gotten used to the quirks in Ridge Racer 64, and I absolutely love the graphics, music, and overall presentation. But as much as I try, I just don't enjoy this title as much as other racers. 3 out of 5.